What's up everyone, Man Bun Metalhead here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to easily do a full restring on a Floyd Rose guitar. The Floyd Rose trems are pretty awesome, but one of the hardest things and trickiest things about them is doing restringing. There's two ways to do it. I'm going to show you guys a full restring, which takes a little bit more time, but if you ever need to take the strings off for doing pickup changes, oiling the fretboard, that kind of stuff, this is a really easy way to get that trem set back up to flat. Now this will also work if you're changing the tuning of your strings or putting on a different gauge, which is what I'm doing in this case. Now I used to have a set of 10s on here. I'm going down to a set of 9s because I'm going to tune down from D to E. Now tool-wise, you don't need a whole lot. You'll definitely need a Phillips head screwdriver to adjust the springs on the back. A string winder is always helpful. Side cutters for your strings. An Allen wrench for your locking trem and for the saddle blocks. Now I also have two batteries. A AA and a AAA, both wrapped in electrical tape, and this is what makes the restringing really easy. Now the hardest part about tuning up a Floyd Rose is getting the string tension matched with the spring tension. So one way to really easily kind of get you started is to set that trem level, and that's why I have these two batteries. So what I'm going to do is actually lift up this trem and place the springs underneath the trem, between the trem and the wood of the body, and that's going to keep it as close to level as I possibly can. Now, if I put in my AAA, you can see on here that it's not quite level. It's still pushed back a little bit, so I need to raise that trem a little bit higher. So I'm going to take that out and put in my AA. And you can see there that my trem is actually almost dead flat, and I think it's pretty close, which is where I want it to be. That is a great place to start. And the reason I wrap them in electrical tape is so I don't damage the metal or the wood of the guitar. So now the next thing I'm going to do is pretty simply just go ahead and start restringing the guitar. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with the saddle block side. I am using high beam 942s from DR Strings for this restring. Now you might ask why I didn't run the strings into the tuning pegs, and that's because I need to take some pictures for the thumbnail. Well, that was fun. Now I'm going to run these strings through the tuning pegs. Okay, so now I have my strings set up. I do not have them tuned at all. You can see they're actually pretty floppy. I do have locking tuners on this guitar, which is a little redundant. Well, it's way redundant for a Floyd Rose guitar, but it does make stringing up a little easier. But they are locked in place. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start tuning the guitar up. Now what's really interesting is because this trem is being pulled back by those springs onto the battery, as I tighten these strings up, it's not going to pull that trem up at all, at least not at first. So what I'm going to do is just tune up to the appropriate pitch on each string. Of course, I'm going to use my nice string winder to make this a little easier for me. Now I'm having a little bit issues with buzzing on this, and that is because since I don't have any tension from the strings, I don't have any bow on that neck. And I like to keep my neck really close to straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and tune up the rest of these strings, and once I have a little bit more tension, I can individually tune each string. All right, so now that my strings are mostly getting close to up to pitch, I got a little more tension on the neck, and I can get some string sound out of this. Now again, the really nice part about this is as I tune up each string, as long as I'm not lifting that bridge off of that battery, I'm not going to have any problems with tuning. So I'm going to show you guys something really interesting real quick. Is if I go ahead, lift this up and take the battery out, I'm going to do this really slowly. You can see that the bridge is going to start to come back past center, so it's starting to dive back. And I don't want to do that too much because it's going to stretch out the strings that I already have tuned. So we can now see that there's more spring tension than there is string tension, which makes sense because our strings aren't up to tune. So I'm going to just go ahead and keep tuning them. I still am running into that issue with my neck not coming into any bow. My high E is buzzing like crazy. There are definitely ways to fix that. For right now, I'm gonna go ahead and lift up my bridge on that side. What I'm gonna end up doing is checking the bow and resetting that. But that is a little too advanced for this video, not what I really want to do. So we're just gonna go ahead and lift up this side of the bridge. All right, so everything's up to pitch right now. So the first thing I'm gonna do is to kind of double check to make sure that my strings aren't lifting off that battery. And they're not, there's no bouncing there. So now I know that there is at least the same or more spring tension on that trem. So carefully, gonna lift up that and bring it back down. It does look like the trem has gone back a little bit. So we can test that by testing my E, and that goes up to an F, just over F, between F and F sharp. So we're definitely got more string tension there. Now what I'm gonna do here is flip the guitar over. So now what I wanna do here is adjust the spring tension. So if my trem was lifting up, I would want to tighten the screws, and if the trem is going to be lifting down, like when I took out the battery and pulled down, I wanna let out the screws. So I wanna do this very carefully by going in here and turning the screws out about a quarter to half a turn at a time. And really just want to do that just to be careful. You don't want to make any large adjustments that you're going to kind of regret maybe in the future. So I'm going to turn it back over and take out my battery and let it back down. All right, so that definitely helped. I'm now at just above an F, so it's still sharp, it's still pulling back more than I want it to. So I'm gonna put that battery back in, and now I can kind of see how much that adjustment didn't do enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and screw out a little bit more. So I can push down on that trem, and it still seems like there's more spring tension, but we're gonna check. Just gonna start by making sure the tuning is good, still at E. So I'm gonna take out my battery. And we're at like between E and F, a little closer to F, so we're definitely on the right track here. So the trem does seem to be pretty close level. It might be tilted up just a touch and back. It's really hard to tell, it's very close, but I'm just gonna kind of leave it where it's at for now and keep making adjustments on the strings. Now the last adjustment I made, when I turned over the guitar, I could actually hear that battery rattle around. So now we're starting to even out a little bit. So if I test the tuning, I'm a little flat on E. So it's telling me I probably have more string tension than I do proper spring tension. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn in those screws just a little bit. All right, so I turned it in 1/4 turn back in on each screw. Let's check the tuning. Readjust the battery to where it's supposed to be. I'm kind of at just flat of E. So I'm gonna take the battery out, let it float. Now I'm at a little sharp of E, sharp of A, sharp of D. And everything is just a touch sharp. So that's telling me my spring tension is just a little too much. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and not use the battery anymore because it's really, really close. And I'm gonna adjust those springs until the tuning is really, really close to being correct. And that should mean my Floyd is just about dead nuts level. All right, so after making that final adjustment, so I made adjustments about a quarter turn at a time, going back out. So my low E, my A, D, and B were dead on, and my G and E were just a little sharp. So that is actually pretty damn close. And if I look down at the bridge, I want to say I might be able to pull it down maybe just a fraction of a millimeter, but I think this is actually a really, really good job. Now, if I were to use strings that were already on the guitar, so the same gauge, same string tension, I wouldn't have to adjust those springs. I would just put that block in there, tune it up, and I'd be probably almost perfect. Now this obviously makes string changing on a Floyd so much easier, really saves some time. Overall, this took me maybe 40-45 minutes to do this, probably a little bit less because I'm doing a video along with it. So the next time you have to take off the strings off your Floyd Rose and put them back on, try out this method. It's gonna save you so much time and so much headache. So hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, please give me a like down there below. It really helps me out. And if you want to hear more about what I'm working on, like more Floyd Rose tips, gear reviews, tips and tricks, that kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell icon so you're notified whenever I have a new video come out. But hey, until next time, rock on.